Well, my name is Jose Ramírez, Jose Ignacio Ramírez, actually. I'm a Pedro Pan program participant. The Operation Pedro Pan, first of all, it was a program that emanated, or it was initiated as a result of the parents in Cuba becoming very concerned that their children would become part of the state government care. And so their education, their upbringing would become part of the state. So they decided that they needed to find a solution to this. And one solution for them was the opportunity to send children back out of Cuba until they saw whether things would be settled down or not. And the first children came in December of 1960. I happened to be among the first 50 or 60 that came. We were all unaccompanied. So that means that we came by ourselves with no mother or father or family of any kind. And ultimately, the program lasted through October of 1962, when 14,048 children were sent out of Cuba by their parents. Actually, when we first arrived, because I was among the first, there were no refugee camps yet in place. We were sent to a facility outside of Miami. Within a week, within 2 weeks of being there, Monsignor Walsh came to us at the house and said, more and more kids like you are coming. We need to find a way to get you someplace else because we cannot accommodate anymore in this house. We have opened a refugee camp and for boys. And so anyone that wants to volunteer, for the moment you have the option to volunteer, you're welcome to raise your hand. And I thought about it that night. When I wrote my book, Defining Moments, it was my first defining moment in life. I was 15 years old, 15 and a half. And I came to the conclusion very quickly that for me to learn English and for me to get an education, with all the children coming and the facilities that I didn't see in place in Miami, I needed to make a move. And so I made my first defining moment decision. And that very next morning, I walked to his room and I said, put me down on the list. And 2 days later, I was on a train to Jacksonville to what is known as Camp St. John. The highest number of kids there were 90. All of us were there from high school, freshman in high school through senior in high school. So, somewhere between 14 years old, 15 years old through 17, 18 years old. The camp is still there. As a matter of fact, I was there last about a few years ago. It is still today used for the same purpose that it was used before we got there, which is to have a summer program for children. There's another facility as part of the camp area that is used for weddings and receptions and all kind, very fancy, very nice. So basically, there were 3 barracks. One barrack housed the kitchen. Well, it was a huge barrack with kitchen facilities, dining facilities, and there was a TV and places to do your homework and things like that and eat. The other 2 barracks were dormitories with a big bathroom in between. So the way we spent our day, Monday through Friday, we were sent to Bishop Kenny High School, where I graduated from high school in '63. And we were sent to Jacksonville, and we would spend the day going to classes, and then at night or after class, we were sent back to the camp. On the weekend, we were basically provided the opportunity to go to Jacksonville for a few hours, and then Sunday we would spend the time in the camp. I don't know the number, but in my case, there were very few at Camp St. John that spoke English well. They had classes for us as much as they could. The high school did something very unusual, at least I thought it was unusual, and I was talking to some of my classmates a few weeks ago about that. They actually took a period of the high school, and they brought 3 or 4 of us with 3 or 4 American kids. And we sat there for a period trying to talk to one another, which made an opportunity to get to know each other, but we also learned each other's language, especially I had to learn the English language. It began to make some sense after about 6 months to a year. We were young, so you learn a little faster when you're young. The camp closed about a year and a half later, almost 2 years from the time it opened, in August of '62. At that point, they split all the kids into one of 2 cities, Jacksonville or Orlando, Florida. And so now there were others who by then their parents or family members had come to the United States, so they were happily able to get reunited with members of their family. So they were the lucky ones. But for the rest of us, they asked us what we wanted to do. So I asked to stay in Jacksonville. And so they sent us to foster parents. They had a number of people who raised their hand to take care of us, and we were sent to foster parents in the area. The senator from the state of Florida, I'm not talking about state senator, but I'm talking about the U.S. Senator Mel Martinez, who is in Orlando. He was in our camp. So Mel was obviously probably the best known that I'm aware of. I mean, we had doctors and lawyers and priests and all kinds of people in different categories that became very prominent in their own ways. But publicly, I think Mel would probably be the one that I would say is the most prominent known person that was in the camp. Well, Jacksonville was a great city for me. It still is. I felt very welcome. People were very friendly. In my book that I mentioned, Defining Moments, I talked about the fact that even though there was a language barrier, people opened their arms. They were either neutral or friendly. The language, of course, barrier got in the way of developing relationships, and it wasn't until many years later that we actually reunited ourselves in a way that makes a lot of sense. But it was a good experience. You know, I have always tell people that when you're trying to adjust to a culture, immersion is very important. But what is also very important in addition to immersion is maintaining some sort of a balance between what you are and what you may be becoming. And so I never gave up my Cuban-ness, so to speak. I am Cuban 100%. That's where I was born. I am a U.S. citizen. I serve in the military, but by the same token, I live in exile, and I'm very clear that I am an exile. But I also am very clear that I am in a great country that gave me the opportunity. Jacksonville was nothing but welcoming, and the people there, there were very few exceptions where I didn't feel like this was a good place for me to live.